At the Brandywell, Derry's destiny was not entirely in their own hands. The home support had one ear on events at Tolka, but knew 3 points were a realistic must if they were to end the night as champions. The fans paid a glowing tribute to Stephen Kenny before kick-off as he took to the Derry dugout for the final time. The manager was without Darren Kelly and Ken O'Man for his last game in charge, but Gary Beckett, a figure in their last title triumph in 1997, was past fit to play. Cork had a definite agenda of their own. Victory by 2 clear goals would see them leapfrog the Candy Stripes and guarantee European football next season. Damien Richardson had to plan without Joe Gamble and Colin O'Brien due to suspension, and the influential John O'Flynn because of injury. The hosts showed no sign of nerves from the kick-off, and with Pat McCourt pulling the strings in midfield, they settled to the task in hand. On this occasion, the Cork defence had to weigh Farron's cutback.
Bohemians hadn't come to Tolka Park just to make up the numbers and settled more quickly than their hosts. 7 minutes in, John Paul Kelly worked himself into a shooting position, and while his left-footed effort was well off target, it was a warning sign for Shells that they wouldn't have things all their own way.
Cork's relatively inexperienced midfield pairing of Admir Softich and Brian O'Callaghan were overrun early on, and Clive Delaney almost put his side ahead from a Rory Higgins free kick. However, Derry didn't have to wait much longer to hit the front, and when it arrived it came courtesy of a familiar source. After netting successive winners against St. Pat's and Waterford, Mark Farron latched on to Malloy's long ball in the 11th minute before keeping his head with a neat finish.
With news filtering through from the Brandywell that Derry had gone in front, Shell's night was about to get a whole lot worse. Goalkeeper Steve Williams completely fluffed what should have been a straightforward catch, and with Barry Ferguson in close attendance, the ball ended up in the back of the net. Replay showed it would have to go down as a known goal as the final touch came off Williams' foot. And the Gypsies might consider themselves a little unlucky not to have had a chance to go 2 up moments later. Owen Heary clearly handled the ball in the area, but referee Alan Kelly had spotted a foul on the Shells captain by Jason McGuinness.
For 12 whole minutes the title was heading to the northwest, but Cork attempted to silence the buoyant home support before the break. Alan Bennett wasted a rare sight on goal. It proved their best opportunity in the first period.
The turning point at Tolka Park came with 22 minutes played. Dave Rogers sent over a cross that found its way to Bobby Ryan. He controlled well and let fly, only to be blocked by the raised hand of John Paul Kelly. Despite Kelly's protests, the penalty was awarded. If Stuart Byrne was feeling any nerves, he certainly didn't show it, coolly dispatching the spot kick past the despairing dive of Stephen O'Brien. And within 5 minutes, the game was completely turned on its head. Jason Byrne sent over an early cross towards strike partner Glenn Crowe, whose first-time volley had enough power to beat O'Brien and put the title back within Shell's grasp. They led 2-1 at the break. Shells returned for the second half, minus hamstring victim Joseph Endo. Greg O'Halloran on in his place. They could have wrapped up all 3 points in the opening stages of the half. First, Jason Byrne was presented with a glorious opportunity, but he skied his effort over the bar. Moments later, the impressive Stuart Byrne timed his run perfectly to get his head to Dave Rogers' cross, but with the keeper beaten, the post saved Bows.
Derry began the second half as they had the first, with Mark Farron in particular wreaking havoc. The forwards' pace caused constant problems, but Devine was on hand here to deal with the danger. With the title race teetering on a knife edge and the Candy Stripes unable to influence events at Tolka, the tension began to rise, and assistant manager Paul Hegarty was sent from the dugout. His dismissal could have huge implications for December's Cup final, as he was expected to oversee affairs against St Patrick's Athletic.
As the second half progressed at Tolka Park, the exchanges became more and more niggly, with referee Alan Kelly doing well to keep a handle on proceedings. John Paul Kelly was unhappy with what he saw as an elbow from O'Heary. Replay showed there was contact, but whether or not there was any intent was very questionable. And then Barry Ferguson was booked as he remonstrated with the ref after Greg O'Halloran's challenge on Thomas Heary. As time slipped away, Shells were creating little, but were nearly presented with the vital third goal by Thomas Heary. The Bows midfielder headed narrowly over his own crossbar from Ollie Cahill's corner.
The home side continued to press for the insurance goal to put the result beyond doubt, but once more Devine proved equal to Farron's efforts. That didn't deter the striker, who was at it again moments later. His final strike caught a deflection off Murray, which almost wrong-footed the keeper, but Devine reacted again to perform the heroics.
Missed chances earlier in the half made it a very nervy ending for Shelburne. Matters weren't held when Richie Baker, who had only come on 5 minutes earlier for Bobby Ryan, was dismissed by Alan Kelly for this lunge at Conor Powell. It looked ugly, but replay show contact was minimal.
For all their pressure, the Candy Stripes couldn't find a second, and they were almost pegged back in the closing stages. Neil Fenn nearly capped his final game for Cork with a stunning effort, but his attempt tailed narrowly wide of the target. The full-time whistle was greeted with rapturous applause as Stephen Kenny ended his reign as manager in winning fashion. The players took time to thank the home support for their efforts after a long, hard campaign, the destiny of which was still being played out in Dublin.
The news from the Brandywell was of 3 points for Derry, so a late Bows equaliser would have meant the league trophy would be heading north. But in truth, there was very little danger of that happening, as the visitors created next to nothing in the entire second half. Shells held on then for the 3 points they needed to spark scenes of wild celebration at Tolka Park.